All right, good day, our listeners. This is still Point Blank Talk Show on News Peddlers. I am Manoah Kikekon. With me is Dovoeke Daniel. You are welcome to our show for this week. Yeah, we've always been bringing informations, matters of public concern relating to Badagry, Nigeria, and the world at large. Today on Badagry, we'll be discussing the Badagry master plan that was just released by the Lagos state government. The master plan is basically the blueprint of developmental phases of Badagry and areas that will be used for various purposes. From our review last this week, when we were looking at what the master plan is saying about Badagry, we saw some areas that was used for industrial purpose, for residential, for misuse, and several other purposes like the gypsy port, the cemetery, and hospital, and several areas. There's some of it that are called for concern as regard where some part of Badagry are highlighted for residential, and some other major part of it are being highlighted for misuse. The misuse, from what we know, which is not yet clarified enough, is those places could also be for industrial purposes. It can be used for everything, anything that is in the purview of development. So, what is your take as regard, making some parts basically residential and some indigenous areas are made to be for misuse? What does that the places like when you look at the map, you see Akpa, from Akpa to the border has been highlighted for residential purpose, and then Imeke, then Baji Aziz.
It's still under the purview of Akpa.
Yeah,
that is Baji.
Yeah, so those are just the areas. So when you look at the main town of Badagry, is for misuse. The main other parts of key communities in Badagry are still for misuse. What's your take as regards this?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I've been looking forward to that. They recently released master plan for Badagry division development. I've been able to see the documents. That document is very hefty. It's not something that one can just review within few days.
Yeah.
And I've even faulted the availability of the document itself in such a way that such an hefty document should be made available at community level, not just at either local government or even in town planning office.
Okay.
If 50 people are on ground to access the same documents at the same time,
which is just one copy,
just a copy that is available there, then how do they access? It definitely means that nobody can have a proper assessment of the paper, of the documents. And again, if you look at it from that angle, I equally made a suggestion there that is there soft copy, so that people can peruse it properly and for them to have a rational objective of what is the development all about. Because once the governor assents to anything that goes out of the 28 days, definitely it becomes a law. Then you look at it again, 28 days is too minimal.
That's another matters.
So 28 days is just, for me, is too small.
Looking at the population of Badagrians, look at the land mass this this master plan is covering. Does that mean looking at Badagry population, does that mean the population of Badagry can access this document within that day?
That is why I'm saying that the availability of the documents is first of all the problem I have. The process for which you disseminate information should not be restricted in that kind of manner, that you only have one hard copy and it's only made available, one hard copy at each center, That is, it's either you get it from the town planning office or you go to Badagry local government or even other designated local government like Badagry West and Olonda LCD. So these are places that are insufficient. And if you look at if these documents are made available at community level, the responses definitely is going to be high. And if the soft copy is made available to people, at your own comfort zone, you can easily peruse that document. If you are thinking about going to those places and only you cannot use 1 hour on that document, and we are talking about a document that is over 1,000 pages.
And at the same time, these people will have to go for their daily activities.
Of course, nobody will go there and sit down. In fact, you will not even have the time because other people are definitely coming. And you only have to do a rough assessment of the paper, and this will never give you a thorough understanding of the paper for you to do a proper perusal of the paper. So for me, that is the first problem they have to address. And the time frame for the assessment of a public document is wrong, entirely wrong. Less than a month. Who does that? It should not be heard of. We should have enough time. This is a matter of public concern. This is a matter that can define our future.
Does it need to be passed in rush?
No.
What if it takes 2-3 months for review?
Of course, there can be up to 3 months for such a review. People should be able to sit down and in their right mind review those documents and pass their report back to those in appropriate quarters. Then secondly, on the issue of the master plan itself, I equally went there a few days ago. I've been able to see the document, and especially looking at the map, some communities' names were omitted from the map. This is one of the problem I have with the map.
And it's not. I don't think it's legible enough. I think it should be. It should be bigger.
It should be more bolder than how it is, and it should not even be covering any other area than
Badagry
areas
of Badagry division.
Yes, it has concern about. Then you look at it again that areas that were omitted, names of communities that were omitted on the map, it should have been there for people who come to say, okay, this is the location of my own community, and let's see
what the more purpose is my community.
It is residential, it is misuse, it is multifunctional, or
industrial area,
agriculture, or
agriculture.
Now, one of the major thing I noticed from the map is that Akwa Kingdom, the entire of Akwa Kingdom down to border, has been excised completely from misuse.
It's basically
residential. And if there is any rationale behind the whole of Akwa becoming the whole of Akwa Kingdom and other communities around her down to border for making them residential area, of course it can be from historical perspective that Akwa has often claimed that they are one of the oldest community in Badagry,
and they could have been the first settler.
Of course, it is still debatable. Every community has a right to prove their existence beyond even what Akwa has claimed. But again, another issue is that I've equally seen that along that Imeke has been carved out entirely as a residential area, which means that every land within Imeke is still within the confines of the control of Imeke people, which means it is entirely residential. Meanwhile, other lands
surrounding Imeke is for agriculture.
Then I look at it that why should it be so that other lands around that environment, all of them, there is not even misuse there. All the land around Imeke is for agriculture. Then you go to places like Banko, that's ecotourism, the whole of Banko. And currently, if you go to that community, there are residents.
They are. It's not even only residents.
There are indigenous settlers. Living in that community. So probably, I don't know if there are plans to relocate them to a much better place, because for the whole of that community to become an ecotourism, which means there will never be an approval for
a building, a residential building.
Yes, a residential building in that community. So then they should be able to, you know, prepare a solution to the you know, the original settlers of those communities. Then again, you look at other major settlements in Badagry, like ancient settlement, the likes of Badagry itself,
Badagry Township.
Yes, the likes of Ajara. Then you know, of course, Ikoga. It's also an ancient settlement, you know, but Ikoga, we have some parts that are Ogun State, we have some parts that are Lagos State. But then, in fact, the name Ikoga does not appear on that map. Then you look at these ancient settlements that have been mentioned, they are under misused. In fact, majority of settlements, apart from the major settlement of Apa Kingdom down to the border and the likes of Imeki, other major settlements are all misused. Then it leads to the question of, you know, the term misuse it can be contested. It is not a clear term definition. So it can mean different things at different times. Misuse. Then it leads to, you know, suspicion of what is currently happening in some part of Lagos where there are ongoing demolition.
And meanwhile, there are some places in Lagos State where the indigenous people has outrightly been sent away from those places due to the fact that those places are not being marked for a particular purpose.
Of course. So, you know, if indigenous people now that are original settlers of a particular community are now being relocated to another community, then they becomes, you know, a tenant, even though they own the land that is going to be allocated to them. Probably it is bought or whatever. But they are definitely going to lose some of their original value being allocated to them on their own land. Then it leads to the issue of what is the rationale behind making a particular area absolute residential area and some other misuse. You know, the government that is making law, we should be able to think about the future. Those that are making laws now, they are, you know, in power right now. Then a time may come where they are no longer in power.
Even this master plan we are talking about will come into effect from 2027, where by then this government will not be enough.
Yes, and government at some point, you know, anything can happen. We may think that the current party in government may continue to rule forever, and at some point it may not be so. PDP has been ruling Nigeria since independence for 16 years, and people will have thought that PDP will continue to rule Nigeria forever. But at some point, it changed. A revolution occurred, and a new party came on board, and you know, that is what we have on ground now. So at every point in time, things like this is bound to happen. And if it happens, what is the interpretation? The same interpretation you have to your particular law. Do you think that a new party will definitely interpret it the same way? Now we have seen cases like this. Look at the current case in Kano State. You know, the governor is interpreting the judgment received from court in his own way, and the opposition people are equally interpreting it in another way. So, you know, these are cases that are, you know, things that often occur in Nigeria. So where you see different interpretations to different, and those that are in power always want to exert themselves.
Exactly.
So now, if we are saying that something is misused, it should be clearly defined. Let us know the residential areas in those places. Then we should equally know that, look, these particular areas are areas that have been designated for this particular purpose, either agriculture, either multifunction, either anything that is under that misuse. It should be clearly spelled so that people will be safe, that a government will not come in some years that will now, you know, threaten their existence. Or they will now become a tenant in their own land or refugee in their own community.
There's a point when I was having a conversation with someone on this matter. He was trying to let me know that I should know that despite that, the fact that these people, these places should be turned to residential or misuse, that the government still has the 100% say on the land of the state, that even if these places are being turned to either residential or misuse, if the government is interested in any part of the state, can still take it. We not considering the fact maybe it is for the master plan has said it's for one purpose or the other.
I think that person is not talking from the perspective of law. He's only talking from the perspective of, someone who just want to pour his view.
Yeah.
So I think a law is always a law, and the state government, despite the fact that Land Use Act is under the control of the state government, where the state government has power over every land within its own jurisdiction. At the same time, we have seen cases where individuals sue the state governments for lands that belongs to them or to their forefathers, and they go to court, they contest those lands, and sometimes they win. If they have,
I think we have such case going on in Badagry for a while now.
Of course. So we have seen cases like that. So that the state government has the control over land does not imply that areas that have been tagged residential, the state government will just come and acquire land within those residential area and destroy building and send people away. No, it does not work that way. People have a right to sue the state government, and court will definitely interpret the law. But if some areas have been designated to a particular purpose, whether if they like they should build any kind of mansion in those areas, the state government has the exclusive right to come and pull down anything that is allocated within those areas. So the state government has a right to act in that kind of situation. But again, if it is clearly spelt and everybody understand their their original position, then everybody have a right to defend themselves in case of any kind of infringement. But in a situation when it is misuse, then we don't even understand the proper definition of the term misuse.
Or the purpose our land will be used for. Another point that this person raised when we were having the conversation was that he said we should be very careful in terms of calling for making some parts of Badagry residential, because if we eventually if this is eventually changed to be residential, it could deter or stop development in some areas of Badagry, in the sense that if a particular place has been tagged for residential, the government will not give an approval for industrial purpose of that area. So that is another thing that should be looked at, isn't it?
I think the person is right and wrong, because for me, areas, there are some particular areas that have been tagged and multifunctional. Which means that anything can happen in those places. And it simply means that both industries and every other kind of whether the residential or anything,
there is even industrial areas already.
Okay, now if we have industrial areas already that has been allocated, and somebody is now saying that areas that are residential should never host industry at the first place. Look at in industrial areas are places that there will be environmental pollution, there will be noise pollution, that there are places that cannot be entirely habitable for people to stay. So for those areas, there should be some distance, a little distance from residential area, especially when Nigeria we have been having issues with generation of electricity. So most often they are going to power their companies
with power plants.
So now those plants will definitely make some heavy noise. So and sometimes for someone like me, I cannot stay in a noisy environment. Areas I have to stay have to be an area that is more conducive that someone can stay and even have some rest of mind, but not areas where you're hearing sound every time. So for me, areas that have been designated for, multifunctional or even industrial areas, they have been taken care of. Every part of Badagry cannot be industrial area.
Yeah.
So we should have it in our mind that ancient settlements should be tagged residential area.
That's the point.
Yes,
now. Ancient settlements within Badagry should be highlighted to be residential and nothing more.
Yes.
In order to preserve these settlements,
cultural values,
preserve these people, preserve their culture.
Yes. So we must get it right. There should be, a clear definition of that concept for us not to mix it up. Yeah. If not, at the end of the day, we will just be, and in some cases, those who are making those, of course, we equally have to credit them for coming up with something more important.
It is very, very much commendable, because when you look at the previous master plan we had before now, the larger part of Badagry as a whole is meant for agricultural purposes. Exactly. But from what we've seen now, there's a great improvement in terms of more of the part of Badagry are now for misuses, which is highly commendable to every individual that had contributed to it.
For Badagry to even have a master plan, it means that government has an intention of coming to develop
Badagry
either themselves or through developers.
Okay.
But the issue is that despite the commendations, this is still a process of public review.
Yeah.
So now is time. What we are doing here is
part of a
review.
Yeah.
So we are not trying to condemn it, because for every community to develop, there must be a plan to actualize the development.
Yeah.
And this is a commendable one. But at the same time, we have to be careful for us not to damage future generations, because we have seen cases whereby some people who have become a particular resident, but at some point they lose their community and they lost everything.
Lost their history, identity.
Everybody will now start to may probably become a refugee at some point, or try to look for places to relocate themselves, and it's not mostly palatable. We know the kind of pain that comes with demolition. I witnessed one where someone has invested heavily and built a particular
I think a hotel.
Yeah. And before launching, he has even paid a popular musician in Nigeria to come and launch the hotel, and there was demolition for placing the structure in an acquired land, and it was demolished even before the launching. The person died immediately. So things like this should be prevented. That is why we need a clear definition of the term misuse. We should be able to know that these particular areas, because if it is not clearly spelled, that we don't know that this particular area is for residential, and this area is for either agriculture
or misuse,
or either for this particular thing, then a government can come at any time and say, look, this part of this area is more okay for this kind of development. Then let's go there and destroy or demolish building. Or even people can even, when desperate people get power, then they can easily allocate land for themselves by trying to come in the name of development,
of course,
and demolish
even in the name of government. Meanwhile, it's for personal purpose.
So they can even easily come through that way and demolish buildings. So for me, despite the commendation, we should be careful not to make a hurried decision. Then they should look at what we have said. There should be soft copies made available to individuals for proper perusal, for us not to misjudge.
And most importantly, the date should be extended.
Yes, it must be extended. The date for that review should be extended before the stakeholder meeting that is slated to hold in Lagos State University. So the day should be extended so that everybody at their comfort zone. If we have the soft copy, we can easily peruse it.
Still on Badagry, we are looking at there was a trending discussion on social media this week, just past week, on on the citing the University of Science and Technology in Badagry, but there was a particular information that came up that Ekiti State is working towards diverting this to Ekiti State. So, and the House of Representatives for Badagry constituency, the Honorable Oluwaseun Sesi Hwenga, he came up with a press release to debunk this, that this is not true, and he is on the matter and he is working towards achieving this for the people of Badagry as part of his promises during the campaign for the people of Badagry. What was your take as regard this? Because before now, I don't think the public is that aware of this process ongoing. But now, and now the people are aware, and there was a lot of reaction, public reactions to this. And what was your take on it?
Well, I think every as a senator or as a rep member, everybody have a right to beat through a bill for a particular development to come to their community.
Yeah.
So if a senator or a House of Rep member has presented another bill that is equally demanding for this same development, it is within their rights, and it is after so many stages of the bill before it can eventually becomes a law. Now, having said that, this particular bill was presented by Honorable James Adeleke.
Faleke, James Faleke.
Yes. So the House of Rep member representing Ikeja division. So he suggested that the Federal University of Science and Technology should be cited in Badagry, considering the history and the culture of the people. I think he has a very good point. The honorable member representing Badagry has equally supported the bill, and he has stated that he is in full support and to ensure that this eventually becomes a law. The bill is still on first reading. It has passed through the first reading. It still have a long way to do. The second reading is there, and the third reading, the committee stage, and fourth reading, and all of those. So it still have a very long way to go, and there is still a lot of factors to be considered before it eventually becomes a law. Whether to cite it in Badagry or to cite it somewhere else, it is still within the period of all of these stages of review. Then whether it is going somewhere else or not, let us wait until then. But it is good to always create public awareness on matters that concerns the people. Because Badagry can no longer sit back and allow anything that is going to develop Badagry to go.
I think that's all I could get from the reactions of the people.
Of course, it is very, very much important. We have learned a lesson that even when Lagos State University was supposed to be cited within Badagry itself, the politics and the idea of it is still in Badagry division. I think it is over to that politics. Any development that is coming right now should be cited within Badagry local government itself. This is definitely going to speed up the development of that area. And considering the strategic location of Badagry, there should be more development, considering the fact that the area is a border town. And we should have more instruments that will facilitate development
and being a tourism haven, like a place well known for tourism.
Of course. So, and I am even suggesting that beyond the University of Science and Technology, there should equally be a University of Tourism. In Badagry.
Of course.
University of Art and Tourism.
That's a valid point.
Yes. This is a place where you still see people that will still showcase talents. So I think
and over time, even people around the world, tourists has come to Badagry and commend the rich culture of these
people. Sometimes some people come, and I will happen to speak with one tourist who came to Badagry all the way from US. The man said what he has always been reading about Badagry, that he couldn't find it here. that he has read a lot of things about Badagry, but on arrival, the developmental structures he met on ground is not at par with what he has read, which is understandable. At the same time, I try to convince him that look, Badagry is still very much developed, and the government is still trying all its best to even develop Badagry more better. That even in the US we have places that are equally not developed, but they are, and the process of development is a continuous process.
It's on phases.
Yes, so that is what I was able to convince the person about. But coming to tell ourselves the truth in the faces, we need to agitate more development for Badagry. We need more, and we cannot negotiate any development that is meant for Badagry right now to go to any other place. It must be within Badagry local government. Yes.
Wow, that's a good one. That was part of the topic that was raised during the week. Another topic that was raised during the week was about a 12-year-old girl she got missing at some point, and eventually till now she has not been found. And at the same time, on that aspect, that's part of the week topic. Another aspect of it is the rise of fraud activities, internet fraud, which is better known as Yahoo-Yahoo. And in recent time, it's becoming is rising, is becoming rampant within the younger generations in terms of secondary school students at the age of 10, 12 up to 20. As young as that, they've been having the ambition to own expensive things, and which is pushing them into all these fraudulent activities. And over time, the Economic Financial Commission, the EFCC, has not really been operating in Badagry as regard that, which I think, what your take as regard that, or what's your take on the role of parents in this Yahoo-Yahoo and the rising population of youth embarking on it?
You see, one of the first problems I have with that concept of fraud is that I do tell people that you can never justify fraud, no matter how much you try to polish.
So some say they are trying to get back what the white men has took from the Africans.
You see, no matter how much they try
to justify
fraud remains an illegality, and it will not be tolerated. It will not stand. I do tell people that those who came to colonize Africa, they are not the same people you people are saying you are now defrauding. All of them must have been dead, and even anyone who is still living is living in his probably an old age, that even the person must have lost all his memory. So for me, that something happened and it's orchestrated to another thing does not justify that you have to go into fraud. There are other legal and legitimate things you can do to earn your living. So the concepts, they have been having a lot of problems even with parents. Parents are the major problem in this concept. Now we are so selfish. Parents are so selfish to the extent that no parent will pray for any evil to happen to their own children. But they are at the same time advocating for their children to become a fraudster, a Yahoo boy,
which is harming some other people.
Exactly. Now the problem with those that are calling themselves Yahoo boys is that when they start, greed is actually the major factor that is driving or propelling them to go into fraud. Now when they start,
and over ambitious.
Yes, that's greed. It is greed. If you are ambitious, I will not agree with the term ambitious, because if you are ambitious, then you go through the right process to achieving your goal. But greed will lead you to thinking that shortcuts can actually give you the desired results. And trying to go into shortcut, that is what has been leading to Yahoo-Yahoo itself. And if you look at these people that have been going into this thing, They have, they are becoming more popular. They are getting more justification even from their parents. So parents trying to justify all of this and trying to tell their children that look, the best way to success is by becoming a fraudster. That is what I deduce from what most parents have been. I've heard a case where, and especially you see, most of this problem comes from mother in particular. Sometimes it comes from mother. When a child comes back home with things that you did not buy for them, you should question those children. Where did you get this? But sometimes they take it without asking questions, and they are very much. I heard of a case where a 17-year-old boy of secondary school within Badagry here lost his life mainly because of greed. This boy happens to go into this fraud, and when the boy first of all buy a iPhone, I think a particular iPhone, probably iPhone 10 or 11 or 12, the father of the boy questioned the boy, look, where did you get this? I didn't buy this for you, and you are still in school. I do not expect you to work to get this kind of money to buy such a phone. The father seized the phone, but in the process the mother secretly get the phone back to the boy, and the boy ran away from home and get a private apartment for himself. In the process, the boy continued with the fraudulent activity, and at some point he defrauded someone who he went to collect the money, and he got involved in an accident and died. So you look at that cases, are you to blame the father? No, but the mother. You see, these cases of fraud has become persistent in Badagry, and it has remained unchecked. EFCC does not operate in Badagry at all. We are not saying that they should come and start victimizing people.
That is very, very important too.
Yes.
Because when you look at the recent operate, the way the EFCC operate recently,
yes, it has been highly unprofessional. We are not saying they should come to Badagry and start victimizing people or start,
because I believe they are young people that are doing their jobs, professional
jobs. Of course,
jobs,
within Badagry, we have
legitimate
a lot of youths that are earning money legitimately. No doubt about that. We have a lot of them. But equally at the same time, there should be a campaign against all of these fraudulent activities. It is not the duty of EFCC just to come and start arresting people. No, the first thing you need to do is create awareness. Make a lot of campaign. They're like recently we have seen cases where NDL
was campaign against drug. Just past week.
Of course, it's a recurring exercise. They have been doing that times and over again. These are two things we need to combat in every society, especially in Badagry: drugs and fraud. We need to combat these two things but for EFCC to just come and start arresting or harassing people, we will not accept that. We are saying they can come, try to do their campaign, educate people, try to discourage them from going into fraud. Let people see the disadvantages of going into those fraudulent activities, and then at the appropriate time do your investigation and try to arrest those that are involved in all of these atrocious acts.
After thorough investigation.
Yes, after thorough investigation. It's not about going and creating a checkpoint and start harassing people who are going about their legitimate jobs. No, these are not what we are campaigning for. We want a sane society. We want a society that is free both from drugs and from fraud. There is no justification to fraud. Fraud will remain a fraud. And you look at it, where it starts, the greed starts from trying to defraud someone. Then if the means for defrauding is not available, since if sometimes they have two phases. They have those that are into international fraud, there are some who are into local fraud. But the two of them, they have something in common: is fraud. Then if they try to defraud and they don't have money for a very long time, where they are unable to defraud people, it leads to thefts. They start burgling into people's house, and at some point where the greed pushes them further, there is one they call Yahoo Plus. They go into that. Then by that Yahoo Plus, that is when they start using human as sacrifice. But all of them have something in common, which is, you know,
the greed thing, and
apart from greed, is jazz or juju or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So they always go into that.
It becomes fetish.
They becomes more fetish, and for them to be able to use some enchantment on their supposed
prey or
exactly. So this should be discouraged by every means possible. We can no longer sit back and continue to promote fraud. I do tell people it is wrong when you are trying to sow from where you have not. I mean, when you are trying to reap from where you have not sown. That they are owing your forefathers. That is what you are collecting from them. Who told you they owe your forefathers? Which job did your forefathers do? The land that gave the resources they took away back then, the land is still there.
Even in terms of the humans that was
human capital resources that were taken away. It is only history that has its role to play in that situation. But that you should now use fraud to justify fraud.
And looking at it on terms of history, the major pioneers of slavery was blacks. Were the one that
of course,
do the capturing, do the selling, and takes the proceed from that selling.
If we have to be critical with ourselves, there have been slavery within Africans.
Before the advent of what Europeans did was that they monetized it.
Yes, they capitalized on
existing and existing structure.
Yes.
Just to monetize it in terms of the money that was used then.
Pay them stipend or give them some product in exchange for human value.
So that's just
so for me, there is no justification. You cannot justify fraud. Fraud remains fraud, and we have to start pointing it to them. You see, there should be, after a series of campaign from the appropriate authorities, we should be able to point in their faces and tell them, look, you are a fraudster. And in fact, people should have the idea of dissociating themselves from these people. There was some times ago in 2020, I make it on my official Facebook handle, and I wrote it there, that fraud, there is no justification to fraud. That no matter how much you try to make it legal, at some point there are consequences attached to it, and you will definitely cry.
Pay for it.
Yes.
Right. Thank you very much, our viewers. This is still Point Blank Talk Show on News Peddlers. We will be back after this short break. Stay with us.
The first thing we are going to focus on is you having the digital skill to become a freelancer.
Welcome back to News Peddlers. This is still Point Blank Talk Show on News Peddlers. Thank you for staying with us. As regard Nigeria, issues going on in Nigeria is the recent there was an explosion in Dangote refinery in Lagos this past week, and more so Dangote has not come out to either the spokesperson or the Aliko Dangote himself has not come back to make an official statement on the matter. But from what it has been, there is a statement, some sort of statement flying around that the explosion was not on a major part of the refinery. It was at the waste water site of the part of the refinery that was affected. But looking at the video, the explosion was not. It's not minimal. It's not a minimal. It wouldn't have called a minimal casualty. And relating this to the fact that the refinery was said to be operational fully by this month, and that the Aliko Dangote himself has came out to say some days ago that if he had known, he wouldn't have embarked on the refinery project, because there are some forces that is working against the successful operation of this refinery. What's your take as regard that statement and this explosion?
You see, it's just too shameful that things like this are happening in Nigeria that we are right now. That there are some forces that are demonic, they are diabolical, and they should not be associating themselves with humanity. Because what Dangote is doing, for me, I don't want to know what anybody has to say about it. But the man has been, if we have 10 people like Dangote, who is trying at all costs to ensure that Africa is developed, then I think Africa will no longer remain how it is. This man has been investing all of his resources into African economy. Now, this is a milestone development in Africa. Dangote refinery, the single, largest refinery, I think is a milestone development for us. And for this man to have come up some few days ago or few weeks ago and to say that there are some forces that have been working against him, the successful operation of this Dangote refinery, you should be worried as a Nigerian. You should be conscious that look what's happening, that if as powerful as Dangote is, the richest black man, is coming out to say this in public, then is sending a very wrong signal that there are some evil forces in Nigeria who benefits from the suffering of the masses. And you look at it, there are benefits to Dangote refinery. One, if that refinery is entirely successful, if it began its operation fully, one, it will reduce pressure from the dollar. Because Nigeria government, even though they are buying on the equivalent of dollar, but they will definitely pay him in naira. Then prices of fuel will go down. Then at the same time, it is going to reduce pressure from the dollar, because pressure on the dollar has been one of the factors that has been leading to the rise in prices of dollar. So if the pressure is reduced from the dollar, then definitely is a plus for Nigeria. But at this time, for us to see fire at that refinery, for me, there has never been an official statement coming from Dangote himself that is saying that
that fire must have caused
that fire was, it was caused by some people. But even with that, I still think that there are more. There should be an investigation into that fire outbreak for us to be sure if truly this fire was natural inferno eruption from that facility, or probably
accidental.
Probably is an accidental one, or it was ignited by someone. So we need to be sure of all of this, because for the man to have come out to tell us that there are some forces working behind him, they will definitely not want the successful operation of that refinery, and that is the truth.
My own take is that, don't you think the statement he made that if he had known, he wouldn't have embarked on that project? What message would that send to foreign investors that have interest in Nigerian economy?
Well, you see, one of the problems we have been having is not only a local problem, but equally at the same time, the problem are foreign. Dangote refinery will not only threaten some foreign investments. If you understand what I am saying,
I know.
Foreign refineries, who especially the beneficiaries,
where Nigeria gets
their own refined oil. Okay, they are threatened already by this Dangote refinery. Now, the statement of Dangote is only at that moment he was emotional, and that was why he would have made that kind of statement. The statement is like a regrettable statement, but at the same time, he has completed his refinery, and part of it is operational already. But he's only trying to express the kind of stress, the kind of struggle he went through, and in trying to confront some of these let me call them demons. So he only tried to express his dissatisfaction with the outburst they must have given to him.
And looking at the fact that he's been disappointed, his perception before he embarked on the project was that
would have been thinking that it's going to be an appreciative one, everybody's going to embrace it. But then he never fathomed in the fact that he's definitely closing up some people's business. So, and they should be able to fight him back. So the statement is definitely, for me, is in reality with what should be expected. He should be expecting that kind of action. There should be hostility towards him, and you want to shut down some people's business, you should expect some
reactions.
So I think his statement for me does not have any significant consequence to international investors. An investor who is interested in Nigeria must have been operating in some other places too, and should have known that there are some rudiments and there are some challenges they must have been passing through even in those places.
Okay. All right. Apart from that, we saw there was also an explosion.
Nigerian explosion.
There's also an explosion in River State, the Port Harcourt. The suspected individual that was supposed to detonate the bomb was, I think, he was caught by the bomb, and the bomb.
There was an accidental, explosion.
Yeah, there was an accidental explosion, and it was said that this bomb was meant to have been set in a public place, possibly to cause a public disaster or mayhem. So eventually, the person, the young man, was caught with the bomb, and the bomb exploded on his hand, and he eventually reported in an hospital, which was, the law enforcement agencies were alerted, and they surrounded the hospital, and he was apprehended. What is your take as regards the continuous, misunderstanding between the governor Fubara and the minister of Dovoeke? What was your take if this disagreement, misunderstanding, could it have been linked to this explosion?
You see, history is always repeating itself.
Yeah.
And if you look at the pre-election in 2023,
yeah,
the presidential candidate of the PDP, who has some issues with the governor of Rivers at that
then who was okay.
Yes, could not conduct his campaign in Rivers State, mainly because the venue where the campaign was supposed to take place, there was a bomb explosion in that venue, and ever since then, the man was very conscious of his own security, and there could not be further campaigns within Rivers State. So now, it should not be happening this way, that there is always an explosion in Rivers. It is not speaking well about the state.
The situation is repeating itself.
Yeah, it's repeating itself, that now that the current governor is having an issue again with the former governor, which there are some delegates that came from the National Assembly to visit the governor. They came on an oversight function, and at the same time they equally visited the governor of the state. And we now have a purported explosion, whereby, but the governor in his statement said, "Glory be to God that the explosion could not take place at the venue. That the person who was supposed to explode to detonate the bomb was caught with the bomb, whereby his hand exploded." And in the hospital, the statement coming from the hospital was that the person reported himself at the River State Teaching Hospital, and he claimed that he was involved in an accident. But from the observation of the doctor attending to the person, the doctor looked closely and discovered that this is definitely not an accident, but rather an explosion, which means that the person who exploded the bomb must have been the same person who has reported himself to the hospital. That was immediately they informed the River State government that there is someone within their premises who is receiving treatment because he was partly unconscious.
Yeah, he was brought on emergency.
Yes, so they reported to the River State government that there is someone here who is unconscious and needs an emergency treatment, which we have started doing. but we equally need the presence of security operatives, because this accident victim, whom he claimed that was involved in an accident, we did not think that it was actually a car accident or anything. That this must have been a bomb explosion. So immediately police operative went to the venue, and I think this, according to the statement, one person among those who brought the victim is still there in the premises. So the police operative are there to make an arrest and investigate the probably why the person was moving on with bomb within Rivers State, or who instigated,
who has sent,
who must have sent the person. So things, in a few couple of days we should be expecting some investigation to unravel. So I think we will definitely know the outcome of the results at the end of the day. But Rivers State politics is becoming an intense politics that people should be worried about. It is no longer about the people of Rivers alone, but about the whole of Nigeria, that the politics actually degenerate into such full-blown crisis like this. There was constitution that should guide the government of Rivers, and the constitution states clearly that local government chairmen must use 3 years in office. Nobody have the constitutional power to elongate their tenure beyond their time in office, even with a minute. They cannot. So that some assembly members who have lost their seats are now sitting somewhere to say that, look, they have elongated the tenure of Rivers State local government chairman with a period of 6 months is illegal. There is no true meaning to that. It is illegal. It cannot stand. Even if they still have their seats, they cannot elongate the tenure of duly elected members. So if that happens, definitely one day House of Assembly member can equally elongate the tenure of the governor, who should have a time frame. Democracy is about time limits,
of course.
So time limits, probably 4 years, 5 years, you cannot exceed it. Nobody can elongate that. But for some people to now say that, look, they are elongating, it means they can equally do that to the governor at some point. And at some point, the National Assembly, if bought by the president, can equally elongate the tenure of the president. That is the consequence. So for me, it is an illegality. It cannot stand. Their tenure has expired. They should go back home. If there is going to be an election in Rivers, definitely they can recontest if the constitution permits them. But that they will have an tenure elongation, no, it is uncalled for. It cannot happen. 3 years is 3 years. They should go. Let them look for something else to do. If they want to contest for the governorship election in 2027, let them go and contest. And they should stop disturbing the peace of Rivers. They should allow the Rivers to breathe.
Thank you for your take as regard that. Lastly, on our show today, we'll be looking at on the international scene. We are looking at the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, which has been ongoing for a couple of months now, and from what it has been, it's not like the war is coming to an end anytime soon, because Israel is not ready to back down. But what caught my attention recently was the fact that Hezbollah using Lebanon as a hideout to attack Israel, and Israel had been sending warnings to Lebanon that he will turn Lebanon to a Stone Age era. What's your take as regard that? Don't you think that would further disrupt the peace in that region entirely?
Well, you see, an escalation should not be advised at this point in time, because after Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, had made that statement that they are going to reduce Lebanon into a Stone Age civilization. it is a serious warning and it should threaten everybody. And equally, Lebanon on their own part has equally, say that they are all ready for a full blown out war. And this should be, a matter of concern to everybody, because if Israel is launching an attack on Lebanon, definitely the war will escalate into Syria. Then Lebanon itself, they have allowed their territory to be used by Hezbollah, who happens to be a pro-Iranian
terror group that's been ascribed to be a terrorist.
Yes, a pro-Iranian. So and Israel has often seen the threat that, look, Iranians are using these means to attack Israeli facility and using Iranian drones to attack them. So now it is the person who allowed his own territory to be used who will definitely pay the consequence. So Israel is right if Israel is attacking Lebanon. But at the same time, we should equally be worried to not allow the war to become a full-blown war, because it will definitely threaten the fragile peace we currently have in the region. So we should be careful, and that is why the UN Secretary General has come to issue statement that there should be de-escalation in the region, that there should be no further escalation of the war in that region. So I think in the interest of everybody, there should be reduced tension in that region, because if Israel is threatening that it's going to reduce Lebanon to a Stone Age era, you know what that means.
Yeah, I know.
They definitely have the capacity.
They have the capacity to.
They have the capacity
to turn the whole country into a rubble.
So that is what they are saying. And if you look at what the Israelis have been doing in Gaza, you should know that if they are now threatening to reduce Lebanon to that same state, then Lebanon should be very careful not to de-escalate that war to that extent. Lebanon should maintain some level of peace, and at the same time should stop allowing Hezbollah to use their territory as a launching pad into Israel. It will have consequences. When this current war started on October 11, when Hamas attacked Israel, I made a statement back then that this will definitely be an opportunity for Israel to carry out the attack they have been, preparing, longing for. The attack they have been wishing that it happened. So it's definitely an avenue for them to, carry out their intention. So, but at this time, other states should learn from this. They shouldn't allow Israel to carry out their, purported plans on their states. So they should be careful about their actions, and their negotiation skills should be more higher at this time. So they need to be more careful.
But what is now for Lebanon to have come out to say he is ready, and looking at the fact that Hamas and Palestine has always said they are ready, and they are going through what they are going through, and Lebanon has been seeing the condition of Gaza and its environment, and Lebanon is still saying that he is ready to face Israel. Don't you think there's possibly Lebanon has the backup somewhere?
That is why I'm saying that we are not hoping that the war should de-escalate fully into Lebanon, because you should expect that once the war de-escalates into Lebanon, Syria will definitely be part of those that Israel will definitely fight against. Syria will give their support to Lebanon. Iran will definitely give their support to Lebanon as well. So you should expect that a full-blown war into Lebanon will be more colossal. So definitely
involving other neighboring nations,
other neighbors who will feel threatened that, look, if Israel is trying to be successful in Lebanon, in Hamas, and in Palestine, and now if we keep quiet and it became successful in Lebanon, then who is next? And there is this saying that in an unjust society, silence is a crime. So if Israel is trying to attack them, Israel should equally be prepared that of course we are aware that Israel has one of the strongest intelligence in the world. they will definitely be aware of all of this, but at the same time they should be prepared that if they go on a full blown out war with Lebanon, they are definitely going to confront Iran, and they are going to confront Syria.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate for your time for today. My name is still Manoah Kikekon, and with me on Point Blank Talk Show today is Dovoeke Daniel. And on YouTube, we have the news peddlers. Like and subscribe to our channels for more videos, for more on these talk shows. We'll be coming live to you every Sundays at 4 p.m. on Point Blank Talk Show. Have a nice week ahead.